is definitely needed. I've been talking to quite a few people, and I've talked to people who have had therapists who pushed them to transition when they shouldn't have. They should have just been there and let them go through with everything that they went through, because not every transgender person wants to actually transition, and some transgender people end up wanting to just be more non-binary or even they them without using hormones. And I just heard so many horror stories, but I think that's what I decided a few weeks ago, that instead of just this being like a solely transgender thing, like where I just talk about just the transgender and the intersex non-binary, I wanted to talk about the rest of the LGBTQIA. And what I mean by that is that we have so much content on the LGB, we do, but nothing on the TQIA, nothing on the intersex, nothing on the asexuals, nothing on the queer people, and we need to. We matter just as much, and we do struggle with bullying and stigma from our own group. And as much as I hate saying it, it makes me happy to know that you were able to find your niche in New York, and you are married too, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, I'm married. We are actually poly, and so that's another part of the equation that gets us ostracized and marginalized at times. Can't talk very much about that poly relationship because of circumstances around their primary relationship and boundaries that are set there. So we've agreed that we wouldn't talk about that. Everybody who knows us personally knows that whole story. It's not really that interesting either. It's just another facet of our relationship. But I think to your point, like one of the things that really was probably the hardest for me to deal with was it's more convenient as a former physician. I understand it's convenient to have definitions, to have boxes that we put stuff in, and it was really hard for me to find even therapists who understood that I was not genital dysphoric, I was gender dysphoric, and that there was a difference between that. And there was a hot minute when my partner of 6 years died in 1990, that I seriously considered going on hormones, and actually started. It ended up creating some health issues for me, so I had to stop, and then that's created health issues ongoing ever since then. But it really put me in a place where I got to understand the some of the marginalization much greater than what I experienced, that other folks in our community were experiencing, because while it's helpful and convenient and certainly made life easier when we started to have vocabulary for some of the identities and aspects of our identity, I think we sometimes forget that those are just aspects of our identity, and there's all of those little spaces in between that don't have words yet,
Mm.
and that most of us fall into places in between. We don't fit. Somebody told me, I'm going to make myself sound really old, but somebody told me about 2 months ago, oh, well, you sound like a demi guy. And I had been familiar with the term demisexual, but not demi guy. And I looked it up and I was like, yeah, maybe on some days that's a good descriptor, but not all the time. And we had this like great conversation about how it's the spaces in between that most of us are in, and that's what causes so many of us to suffer, is because if you're in those spaces in between, if there's not a name for what you are or what you do or how you identify, then we can tend to feel left out. So I grew up feeling like I was at times too butch for all my trans friends. Even though when I was 16, my best friend at the time and I were fired working at a restaurant on Orange Avenue at a pizza place, because the manager walked in the girls' restroom and we were both taping up, and discovered at that point that we were not biologically equipped the way that he thought, and so all of his flirting and advancements and all of that stuff that actually got us our jobs that we may or may not at 16 have kind of used to our advantage. Read that as yes, we did. Fell apart. Like he went ballistic, and we were both terminated on the spot. Not that losing a job in a pizzeria was the most traumatic experience in life, but that was the beginning of discovering that, man, there are just some times that I was too butch to fit in with the trans community. I was too femme to fit in with the leather community. And like you said, the LGB part of the community, and to a lesser extent the bi community, but the LG community certainly was coalescing around itself and lifting one another up and being really activist. But we on in the TQ
I
rest of the alpha or the alphabet mafia, um, to this day still end up being the redheaded stepchildren.
I completely agree. I mean, I've had people tell me that, of course, who wouldn't want to be a man? And then I have people going, well, why would you ever dare want to be a man? It's like, it's just constantly this battle. And it's like, I don't think some people understand it's the feeling like. And I don't like, I'm getting, so full disclosure, everybody knows these episodes are pre-recorded, but I'm getting top surgery tomorrow. But that's the only surgery I want. I don't need anything else to be a man, to me personally, or to have that male energy or that male presence. That's not who I am. And I've always been very masculine I remember, I'm being 100% honest, it's probably kind of funny, but I remember being from a really young age. My Aunt Nancy wanted to always have a girl in the family. She ended up having three boys. And then my grandfather, her brother, had a boy. And then, then I was born. They're like, oh my God, finally a females in the family, right? They're all excited. I'm running around in the mud. I'm playing with the boys. I'm trying to piece it up, right? No, it just never was like that. They knew from the get go, like, okay, that's never gonna happen. Drew will be Drew, and it's cute in the essence of knowing that I've always been like that. But it took me a long time to come to terms with it and really be comfortable with it. And if I did have probably a proper therapist, I probably would have gotten there maybe sooner. But I don't think I was emotionally stable or ready or in the right place for it. So I do believe that my journey has led me here. So I think it's very important for people to understand that there is no right way, no right time to do it. But at the same time, to understand that most of the TQIA, and yes, the B community gets this too. There's just more knowledge on the B community, but they get just as much hatred as the rest of us do from the LG community, as well as, and I think I actually get more support, oddly, from the cisgender community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do. And it's because I have a lot of guy friends who are like, yeah, I've always thought this of you and great. And I have a lot of female friends who are like, you're going to look great. You're going to look awesome. I have an amazing supportive wife. It's like my grandfather trying to understand in his own weird way. He's like, if I was a gay male, would I want surgery? And I'm like, Grandpa, no, it's not the same. So it's like, but it's cute and it's nice and it's refreshing. I know for a fact that my father's going to try to see us and everything, and like my family's not been aggressive towards it. It is possible to love somebody. And so, and on an aspect too, is that my family's religious. My family grew up Catholic. I have Italian families in Philadelphia, so that's why I was laughing. And yes, they're very much Italian over there. And they live in Philly, and very Italian name over there on that side of the family. And they love and support me. So it's about, I love that you're helping people not just find the gender aspect, but also the spirituality aspect, because some people still need that. They still feel really disconnected with themselves and who they want, and who they want to be spiritually, as well as who they want to represent themselves.
I think that had a lot to do too with my journey. Was I grew up in, while the religion side was Catholic, and the veneer was Catholic, there was also the esoteric and witchcraft magical community. Although in the Italian culture, we didn't call, witchcraft was something outsiders referred to our practices as. It was just the stuff that we do, removing the maloicchio, doing readings, card readings, and everyday kind of practical magic. But when you're in sort of that world, it's impressed upon you from the age of 6 onward that the divine masculine and divine feminine are the entirety of who you are, that you can't separate either one of them, that it's just positive and negative energy, and that somebody came along at some point and unfortunately called them masculine and feminine. I remember my grandmother saying that, and saying, in the rest of your life, there are some people who all their lives manifest those two parts of our energy more visibly. And she said, that's going to be you. And you know, you can see it now when you look at some of my childhood pictures, and they just scream. They make RuPaul look butch. And and like, I think because there wasn't a need to put a label on it, my cousins all knew who I was probably before I knew who I was.
Mhm.
And they were all really supportive and all really cool. My male cousins as well as my female cousins. And I think because of that, I didn't get hung up, and didn't even really give it a lot of thought until today. I was writing a post on Facebook, talking about a lot of the things we're talking about to kind of help me focus on what we were going to talk about. And I was like, so I never really thought about it, but does this mean, like, maybe this is why I don't identify with labels very well, because as a non-binary trans person, you know, trans because I transcend or go across the genders, and non-binary because I'm not an either or. Um, does that mean that there are times when I'm straight, and times when I'm bi, and times when I'm gay? Because there are times when if I don't identify as male or female, it's really hard for me to say that I'm a gay male, because I'm not a gay male, because I'm not male. And if you're not male and you're doing the deed with a dude, and or another non-binary person who happens to have uh, a dick, like, why get so caught up in what does that mean? One of the people that I was intimate with, it was a there was a very close friend and somebody that I really loved, was one of the people that was killed in the same year that George Floyd was killed. And they were trying to figure out their stuff, and trying to determine whether they were gay or straight, or somewhere in between, or neither. And for me, it has never been about what you had in your pants. It was about the connection.
Mhm.
And you know, every time one of those new realizations happens in our lives, friends of mine are like, oh my God, now you're going to make your life more confusing. But they don't, until you're in those shoes, you don't realize it doesn't actually make it more confusing. It makes it harder for everybody else to put a label on you, but it just frees us to, like, the wholeness, you know, like, and so that's what it's kind of what I aspire to, and what I aspire to help others find. Is I don't want to help somebody find the label for their identity. I want to try and inspire them to find the wholeness.
Mhm.
And in that wholeness, you can let go of the labels. Like, who the hell care? Call me what you want to call me. You know, with respect to my um, to my identity. You know, I don't want to be dead named. You know, changed my name at a specific point for a very specific reason in my life. And it has, you know, significance and meaning for me. And there's a lot of emotional charge behind it. And on TikTok, I just joined TikTok the other day.
Welcome.
And on my, on my third video, somebody from my family, I don't know who, I suspect I know who, but I don't know exactly who, dead named me to be hurtful and bitchy and douchey. And it worked, because I was way off balance for a good couple of hours, and I was very Philadelphia Italian for a good couple of hours. And then I was like, you know what? Screw it. That's about them, not about me. And then I learned you could actually turn comments off on TikTok, and that was even more
Block
joyful.
them. Yeah, you can block them too. And I actually, so I resonate with this with a lot today. And for some odd reason, I always feel like there's comes a test before you're about to do something great, a test of your vigilance or a test of what you're really going through. And I had this childhood friend that I've loved dearly since I was 12. Amazing human being. And, you know, their parents were a part of my life for a long time, and they're a very Christian family. And her mother called me an abomination today. And I broke. I was like, and it's the thing is like the messages that I was having with her before.